get into the subject. Welcome back to another episode of On the Subject. I'm your host, Michael Vilardo, co-founder and CEO of Subject. You can find us at subject.com. And today I have a serial entrepreneur joining us. This guy has started businesses from such a young age, also dove into venture capital, and he's currently the co-founder and CEO of YourPath AI, otherwise known as just Path. We are so excited to be able to have Chandler Malone on the podcast today, hear more of his stories, how he's been able to maneuver the incredibly complex venture capital and entrepreneurial space, raise capital, build epic businesses, and live in cities throughout the US. We're so excited to have you. Thanks for joining us today, Chandler.
Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
Yeah, we're really excited. And so, why don't we start with how we know each other? And so, Chandler went to the incredible school, WashU in St. Louis, and he happened to be in the same fraternity as my brother and some mutual friends. Tell us the story.
Yeah. Did FSAP, a program for students right before school started over the summer. Got to know Daniel super, super, super well. And then, your first business that you started, I
Yeah.
believe, you co-founded with one of my really good friends from undergrad, a guy named Liam Cotter, still one of my
Yeah,
best friends.
shout out Liam, incredible guy. It was great getting to build with him. I know that both he and I wish we would have went all in. I tried to convince him, and that's a good story for the listeners out there to go all in. He had an investment banking job, which is great pay, and I know especially when you go to schools like WashU, Penn, well, or we both went. There's a lot of pressure on you to get the highest paying job possible and go on that path. And so he ended up going to New York and HSBC, and so I had to start from scratch, come out to LA, and start a new business. But he was so much fun to build with. But why don't we even talk about that pressure to have a consulting or banking job? But you didn't do that. You started the moves in college. This is basically a better, more original version of Snapchat Maps, but then you had to go against such a huge conglomerate like them. But you did not fall for the I need to go where it's investment banking. Were you just always original thinker?
Yeah. Definitely, I feel like in my entire life with sports, I feel like I competed at the highest level. So just like the level of ambition was always there. But I feel like I also had just like some really fortuitous events happen early in life. So sophomore year, started a business with a really close friend of mine named Hannah Pearl, an events business that's still going on WashU's
Oh, nice.
campus.
Let's go.
And so it's like my first entrepreneurial experience went super well, and I was in school, so like the level of risk was really low. And it's like once you have a win, like your level of confidence is so much higher. And so I remember like our first year, I was thinking about going to be an attorney, and we made more money than like what I would have made an attorney salary, and I'm still in school. And so I'm like, you know what?
That's amazing.
There's something here that like I really need to lean into. So yeah.
Well, and I glossed over your athletic background, which I think is so cool as well. You use basketball as a tool to get into WashU. I always talk about with my all my listeners, like without baseball, I would have never got to go play at Penn. And I'm really lucky that I got to use that experience. Did you know going into high school, like, hey, I'm gonna just go to the best academic school possible? How did you maneuver that? Because WashU is a really hard school to get into. Olin School of Business for everyone out there, consistently ranked top five, even some years number one in the country.
Yeah. So I think a couple things again, talk about playing at the highest level. And so, played against guys like Julius Randle, Kelly
Oh
Oubre,
wow.
right? Like
Yeah.
NBA players. So I knew in ninth grade I was not that. You know what I'm saying? And so, you just start thinking about like next steps and like, I had some D1 offers, but the academic profile of the schools was nothing close to WashU. And so, once I found out just like what that institution had to offer, I'm like, this is really a no-brainer. Like I can still do the thing that I like, in terms of playing basketball, but like I'm actually setting myself up for the adult life that I'm gonna have. Yeah.
Well,
So
1,000,000% the better way to look at it. I know with my brother who also went to WashU, he only played a semester, shout out Daniel, but he played baseball and baseball got him into school. Was super, intellectual kid. He had offers opportunities from Toledo and Ball State. And I had mentioned to him like, hey, I went to junior college. I went all over the place and was lucky enough to land a pen. Hey, use baseball as the best tool to get into a great school and develop those skill sets. And so you did that at WashU. And now you're going back and speaking at WashU graduations. Like, what's that like from a humility standpoint to go back and be able to impact the students in the school that really made you who you are?
yeah, that was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. It's like all the MBAs, for the most part are like a little bit further along in just years lived,
Yeah.
than I am, while I'm sharing with them. But I think also it's like a testament to I would have never gotten that opportunity, had I gone down the consulting, banking, like PE path. And that's not a knock on that path, but I think you're able to have like some of these just like incredible moments, like when you take risks. And so it's
Taking
like
risk
that
is
never would have
huge.
happened. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about that. You basically, and you're in your late 20s. We don't have to be descriptive because this, plus, we want this podcast to live on for years upon years. So Chandler is a guy in late 20s, super talented. But you right out of school, or even not even right out of school, in school, we're doing entrepreneurship. So you started getting the career experience of like 4 or 5 years worth in 1 year. And I oftentimes say entrepreneurship can be 10 years of experience in one. And so, meanwhile, even though you're in your late 20s, in a careers person sense, you've lived so much longer than these MBA students, hence why they value your opinion. Can you talk about how you've been so willing to move cities for your career and why that's really benefited you? Because I think that's something that is a lost art in today's Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And I really want to encourage you, move to where you need to work. You started in St. Louis and you went to Tulsa, then Miami. And sounds like you're going to New York now. Talk about moving and doing whatever it takes to be successful.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been like straightforward and not a super difficult thing because what I spend my everyday on is like the things that like bring me joy, like the things that I'm passionate
Yes.
about. And
Energy.
it's like if you're living a life that is like centered around passion and like purpose, you'll go wherever you need to go, to get things
Agreed.
done. And so, even just to give a little bit more background in each space, it's like, I've known that I really care about people having a level of economic mobility. And so, the whole play in Tulsa was, hey, we're launching, our first venture fund in the city of Tulsa, and we're trying to basically build pathways for people to build generational wealth through technology. I'm like, okay, I would love to be a part of this. I'm going to learn a ton. I'm going to be in great network. I'm going to have great access to resources. So, went there, right? Raised a little bit of capital to start a new business that was specifically around helping upskill, reskill, train people for tech
And this
roles.
was boot up, correct?
Yep. And so you think about Miami, right? And it's like Miami in 2021 had the largest net influx of tech talent of any city in the world.
Yeah, it's an
You,
amazing place.
but you think about what that did to the Bay, right? And it's like
Yeah.
it tore the Bay apart. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, this is a geography where my solution is actually going to be helpful to the citizens, not like the transplants, but the citizens of
Yeah.
Miami. And so like that was a big impetus, for the move. And I think, even going to New York, right? It's like what we're building, we work with a lot of nonprofits, we work with a lot of educational institutions, right? And it's like you think of like the KIPS of the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You think of the Robin Hood foundations of the world, and it's like those folks are based, in New York, right? And like I just want to be around my customers, being able to learn, being able to grow, being able to like build community.
Yeah, I think being in the same room is really powerful. Like, look, we're in the same room right now. It's so great to see you again. I think the last time I saw you was at the Concrete Rose Founders Summit in SF at the Rosewood. Beautiful hotel, great experience. But being in those collision, the opportunity for more surface area of luck, I really believe in that. We're based in LA very much for that reason. Hopefully, you've enjoyed your brief stay here so far and at the office. We wanted to be at the heart of production. We wanted our courses to look like a Netflix documentary. And so, as you can see here, we've invested a lot in the production space, and we think LA is the place for that. And I love that you're going to New York to be able to talk more closely to your customers. Talk about that a little bit more, though, like Robin Foundation Kit. It sounds like your mission and fulfillment is really important to you, and hence why you said it's been so easy to move around. Like, what drives you intrinsically every day to be able to work so much? As an entrepreneur, you're probably working 100 plus hours a week. What drives you intrinsically so much, and why do you care so much about these customers?
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, sports was such a huge part of my life as a
Same,
child.
same, yeah.
And I feel like what it afforded me in terms of just seeing a cross section of like the world and the country, especially from just like opportunity and socioeconomic standpoint early on in life, I feel like was really special. And so, I mean, I played on teams where we're flying on private planes because a kid's dad, sold his
Oh,
company.
that's
And so,
amazing.
and it's like, that's amazing. But then you look on the flip side, and I also have played on teams where my mom's buying peanut butter, jelly,
Yeah,
bread, eggs, and like turkey for like half the kids on the
yep.
team, and it's like, we look up now as adults and we look at folks' life outcomes, and folks' life outcomes almost have nothing to do with how good of kids they were when they were 11 or 12. It almost has everything to do with like their parents' socioeconomic status.
one
And
million
so,
percent agree. Whether that's right or wrong, and I think we both agree it's extremely unfortunate. That's the reality. That's why we say, the zip code you're born into affects your life so much. It's a human lottery, and we got to change this. So, like, keep going. This is a beautiful story.
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like for that, you see this and you see people that were some of the best people to you, when you're younger in life and, maybe they lose their way, but they didn't have a lot of guidance and direction. I have so much privilege. I have so much access, like so much knowledge. Like if I don't wake up every day and like use that, like I'm not going to be able to sleep well at night. And so I feel like just in terms of like mission and having the drive for work, I feel like the things that make me excited have been a part of my life since I was like 9, 10 years old, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's one reason why we're so passionate. So we work on high school, but just in general, I think you talk about mid to late 20s and younger. Everyone has so much potential and opportunity to still course correct. And that's not to say if you're in your 40s or 50s, you can't. Absolutely not. Everyone should always be dreaming to be bigger, better, and more ambitious. But young people, they really are, the future society. They have that opportunity, that untapped potential. And so the earlier you can help someone, the better. And so we really just want to be able to say, hey, how can we help someone as early as possible in life realize you have to invest in your education. You got to take it seriously. You got to be constantly learning. And it's not just education doesn't just mean school. School is not education. Education is learning, loving to learn, going on YouTube. How did you learn to raise capital, for instance? How did you learn to be a founder? I'm sure it wasn't completely handed over to you in a book.
Oh yeah. I mean, a ton of YouTube,
Yeah.
a ton of Google.
YouTube is great. I love YouTube.
Yep, and then, I mean, when I was at WashU, I remember my junior year, 2nd semester, I interned 20 hours a week at a venture firm, and it's like,
Wow.
I was really not worried about class. I was just trying to, like, be in the room and, like, pick up the nuggets. And, even, when I moved to Oklahoma, I was working with a venture fund, you know, not just investing in founders, but also investing in funds, and so it's like you see the whole life cycle and ecosystem and, like, you understand folks' incentives, and it's like, that is a deeper educational experience than just reading in the book of like, oh, pre-seed, seed, series A.
Well, you gotta be out there feeling it, and, that's one reason why too we really believe in the virtual education because we think if you could give back people more time to do what they love, starting businesses, sports, I bet basketball taught you a lot of life lessons, theater, arts, music. The more time you can spend doing and actually learning by doing and immersing yourself with ambitious people, the better you're gonna be in life, and I'm sure you can attest to that, and I actually wanna ask something about your Oklahoma experience, so cool that you got to spend time as a founder and a venture capitalist. What do you like better and why?
Yeah. I mean, I love founder life more.
I love being a founder.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on how you look at the world. Some people will say there's less certainty, but at the end of the day, I always feel more certainty when I'm in the driver's seat and I can kind of control my own destiny. And like, I know I'm always going to be willing to put in the work.
Yep.
I always know I'm going to be willing to like do the research. And so, there's just like a feeling of like security, and that. And I think also, you're able to help support people build their passions, but you aren't actually building your passion, and so I would pick founder life 10 times over.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love being a founder as well. I think what's so cool for venture capital is if you're exceptional, it's a really hard job because you have to make two or three extremely correct bets over a 10-year period. And so it's a very slow feedback loop. But if you are exceptional at it, in theory, you can work a lot less than a founder. And so to your point, like if you are really, really good at being able to understand how to make the right bets and can live with that, you can make an incredible amount of money and resources for other people while still working, but obviously not the founder level. Whereas founder, you really do have to put in 100 plus hours a week, every single week. And, there's always these hot topics online, around the work life balance, this and that. And like, I wonder how you approach leading your company because we're very passionate about like, hey, we're going to work a ton of hours and pay people for it. How do you motivate people to work as much as you? And obviously that's not always realistic, but like, how do you motivate people to follow your lead?
Yeah. I mean, like, first of all, like, this is my life,
Yes,
and so,
agreed,
yeah,
agreed.
like, we talk about balance, but it's like, it is a blessing to be able to wake up every day and like be building and like driving towards something that is like potentially impactful to so many people,
Yes.
And I think that like early on when we talk to folks, I feel like folks feel that, in the conversation. Another piece that I'll give, and I mean, like I talk about this a lot, like all of our engineering and product team, with the exception of our team lead who's out here, is in South America.
Yes, no, I wanna talk about this. So, and this, like, I'm Colombian, dual citizenship. Been down there several times. How did you get into this whole South American push? Because I wanna spend more time down there. It's beautiful, such good energy.
Yeah.
The talent is great, and it is the same time zone. I mean, for you in Miami, it's so easy to get to. Here, it's a little bit of a pain, just because there's no direct flights to Medellin. There are to Bogota. How did you get into this, and how has the talent been in terms of offshore talent?
Yeah. So, a couple things. One, everyone that we've hired is 27 to 31. So it's like I have my peers that like I went to school with on all those
Very
things to just
cool.
like be able to understand, okay, this output is impressive. This output is like we need to do better. And so like there's just like the context piece
Yeah.
there that's super helpful. But you talked about these surface areas of opportunity. There was a guy who had started a ticketing platform at WashU my freshman year. Well, actually, no, he had graduated my
Yeah.
freshman year, so we didn't even overlap, but we would like use his platform for our events business. Lives like 4 blocks up from me in Miami. Go to his birthday party. There's a young lady at his birthday party who's Colombian who has a recruiting company, like an IT recruiting company. And so literally 2 weeks of me moving into Miami, and it's like I make this connection. The first 2 hires that we made, and like I don't like to hire like product talent individually, like I like to hire
Yeah, no, that's smart.
pairs.
Always hire in doses. I think across as many functions as possible because then you have a easier benchmarking.
Yep, exactly, and it's like those first 2 guys that we hired were rock stars,
Oh,
and so I'm like,
nice.
"Okay, this is great," and then, you talked about how you incentivize people, and it's like,
Yes.
we can pay people 2, even sometimes 3 times market rate there, and still be paying less than what we
Wow,
would be
that's
paying someone
amazing.
here, and so it's like, not only is the talent level comparable, but the incentive structure is, like,
Yeah.
way higher, so
Yeah, and you want everyone to have the best life possible, and when you can really motivate people, and as a leader, especially, talk about it more and more, like working in the business, which is such a blast. That's what you're always doing from day one, but then become someone who's working on the business. You're working on the business. How do I incentivize talent to work as hard as possible? How do I have people excited to be able to contribute to what we're building? And it sounds like you've really figured that out. And so you're essentially on your third venture-backed startup now, which is unbelievable that you've been able to accomplish so much at such a young age. Huge credit to you. What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned from the first two and being a third-time founder now that's made you even more confident about avoiding some of the same mistakes?
It's really funny. We actually had a conversation around this, and I don't even know if you
Mhm.
remember this conversation, but that first company I started in undergrad, I had a rock star co-founder. I mean, we're still friends to this day.
And that's amazing because your co-founder relationships are really, really challenging. And, it's truly something you have to invest in and make sure you both feel the love and trust.
Exactly. And I think for me, like I would never go into something as ambitious as a venture-backed company without a co-founder ever again.
Yeah.
Like
It's the emotional toll it takes on you
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you're going into battle,
every day.
yeah, every day, and you got less resources than who you're going into war
Yeah.
with. Like, you can't be the only one who is like so motivated and
Yep.
like so involved. And so that's one piece. And I think there were things in previous companies that I built where I had a hunch or I had a hypothesis or something, and instead of just going all the way, I try to like scale it back, tone it down a little bit to make it more palatable. When it's like at the end of the day, like this is like a home run business, like
No.
singles and doubles business.
Agreed.
And so it's like to like actually go build the company in this space that you want. It's like you can't be kind of trying to like dumb it down or like
Nope.
scale it back to make it more palatable. Like that thing that you see, like you've got to like go towards. And I feel like those two things, maybe a little bit less like tactical, but I feel like those two things have been the biggest things that I've learned from the other experiences.
And you went to high school in what state?
Dallas,
Dallas.
Texas.
Amazing. Okay, so you lived in Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Florida. Have not lived in New York yet, but going soon. Of the four, if you had to live there the rest of your life, where would you do it?
Oh man, Miami's great. You
Yeah,
know,
Miami is amazing.
yeah, like
What's your favorite restaurant in Miami?
oh man, it depends. So, Doya is like maybe not just like the super like big
Yeah.
name, like fancy smancy ones, in Wynwood. Really, really good. And then I like Makoto in Ball Harbor as well. Like those are my
Oh,
two
that sounds
favorites.
so good. Yeah, we love Miami. We had a ranking on one of the other podcasts, and I said I'm torn between Miami and LA for my second favorite. New York is my favorite, so I'm definitely envious. You have to live the life I definitely want to live. And so one thing I definitely always want to captivate with our guests is, speaking to high schoolers, especially because we want to inspire high schoolers to go as far as possible in life. You did such a great job coming from Texas, leverage basketball, got into a great school. You're a successful founder, investor. If you had to speak to the Chandler that was a sophomore, junior in high school again, what would you say and why would you say it?
Man, this is a great question. Um, I feel like I had so many ambitions at that period in life, and I felt like it was going to be impossible for me to like pursue and go after and like become all of it. But I feel like as you start to move through life as an adult, you realize like there's not anything stopping you. There's not like actually like any real rules. Like you can go do what you want to do and
Yeah,
go be who you want to be. And so if you want to be 5 things, you're gonna have to work
yeah,
really hard to do
yeah.
it, but you can go be those 5 things. And so I think, that would have been a great lesson for me to tell myself then.
Yeah, it's all about putting that work in, everyone. And I think that's one thing I definitely appreciate, being around people like yourself is ambition raises ambition, and you want to surround yourself and be the least ambitious in the room because then you know you're in the right room. And so I'm really excited that we're able to, continually catch up and get to hang out. And hopefully, when I'm in New York, we could be able to catch up even further. But I really appreciate everything that you do for students, everything you do for the world. And so let's give one final plug before we close out the episode on your company and why people should check you out and how they could find you.
Yeah. So www.yourpath.ai. We're basically building AI powered tools to help people excel academically and in their careers. And so, we've got a career coach, we've got some test prep tools, some resume and some interview prep tools, and really excited about some of our, high school, community college, et cetera, partners. And honestly, like really excited to be able to have relationships with folks like you. Like I want to tell you, like, publicly here, what you've built at Subject is a dope company for sure. My time that I spent, in Oklahoma, I was able to see just like communities that didn't have the surface level,
Yeah.
of access just because, you're not in a city and you're not bumping shoulders, with folks. And so to be able to deliver people access to the resources that can help them level up in life, I mean, like that's the biggest thing you can give.
It's everything. And we're all about how do we create equal opportunity through education. And I'm glad we're on that mission together. And so we'll definitely have to have Chandler back on the show sometime soon. This is another episode of On the Subject. Remember, we're pushing Spotify and YouTube. So click down below, subscribe, follow us, Spotify and YouTube. Help us get more incredible guests onto the show like Chandler and be able to share their stories. Looking forward to talking to everyone soon. Thank you so much for your time today, Chandler.
Thanks for having me, man.